Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Harlequin here, back to take another first look at Dawn of War 2 Retribution Beta. And you sneaky devils figured out my channel before I was even ready to go public. So I want to give a big old shout out to GameReplays.org user GTech101 who managed to find my YouTube channel before I even announced it to anybody. So good stuff there, and I'm honored to be so well received. So anyhow, I'm just going to keep pumping out videos. Sometimes I like to fill up a channel with videos before I tell anyone it's there, just so they have more than they can watch in one sitting, but that doesn't matter. So again, props to GameReplays.org. So let's take a look here. Again, we're taking a tour of the races, and today's game is going to feature the Orks versus the Imperial Guard. We've got illonexxx as the Ork player, and we've got cozNemOK as the Imperial Guard player. So let's go ahead and get that replay started. This is the 1 vs. 1 map, Ashes of Typhon. Typhon Primaris being the planet featured a lot in the single-player campaign. And as you can see, it's got kind of rocky outcroppings, mineral deposits, lava flows, and some sulfuric deposits way in the back there. It's got that kind of vibe going on to it here. So let's go ahead and just take a quick peek at this map. As you can see, it has 3 victory points kind of spread out in a triangle across the middle. And it is interposed with another triangle of 3 power nodes. So just trying to keep it nice and asymmetrical so one player is always in the lead is kind of how these usually go. And the player to the north is going to be cozNemOK. He is playing today as the Lord General with the Imperial Guard, and his opponent down in the south playing as Orks is going to be illonexxx, who has the Mek Commander. So let's go ahead, get this replay started, and see what these players are up to here. So looks like they are on the move. Here we go, and we have a Shoot-A-Boy squad being produced right now for illonexxx, and we have a Sentinel coming out on the field right now for cozNemOK. We'll take a look at that right now, and it looks like the Mek Commander, already taking advantage of his knowledge between the shortest distance between 2 points, is a teleport. So, of course, this hero can teleport, and we're going to be seeing quite a bit of that this game. As you can see, we have a Sentinel on the field right now. Now, the Imperial Guard have access to lots of cool vehicles and stuff. That's kind of their theme. These light walkers being their first, the most used one early on. And as you can see, it's got this kind of jungly walker kind of look to it. Reminds me a lot of a vehicle I once saw in a movie a long time ago. Pretty far away, but I can't quite think of the name right now. Anyhow, since it can't capture any points, it's moving right on out, and it looks like it's going to try and harass a little bit of illonexx's units here. You can see he opted to cap 3 power points right off the bat there, so very power-hungry Ork here today. You can see he's got 2 squads of Shoot-A-Boys out in the field right now, and both of these Shoot-A-Boys are just kind of laying down the range fire into that walker, and that walker, living up to its name, just kind of moonwalking out of the battle here. So now that he's got all that, it looks like both players are kind of opting to cap all the points on their side of the map. You can see that cozNemOK opted to get a second Guardsman infantry squad here. So 2 Guardsmen and 1 Sentinel is the way that that's going on. This first squad of Guardsmen here has engaged the Mek Commander a little bit, so got a little bit of range fire. Everybody's behind pretty good cover here, so I don't expect too much to happen. He might get a couple of model kills there. Yes, you can see 1 Guardsman goes down. And now that a Sentinel and a bunch of more Guardsmen are showing up, it looks like this Mek Commander is going to have to get out of there, and boom! There he goes again with that teleport ability. So very reminiscent of the Eldar Warp Spider Exarch in terms of the early game feel. He's a really good harassing kind of unit and that sort of thing. So we'll get a feel for that later on. But meanwhile, just kind of a little bit of early game skirmishing going on here. It looks like we've got both squads of Guardsmen infantry moving on up, and 2 Shoot-A-Boys, and kind of a big firefight actually for this early on in the game. As you can see, the Guardsmen are able to repair vehicles early on, and here comes the Sentinel moving on up, and could he be winding up for a ground pound? Yes, he is! Stomping the ground with one of his big mechanical feet, knocking back all of the Ork units, doing some damage and stunning them, and as you can see, the Guardsmen just kind of cleaning that all up. So a lot of lost models there for the Ork player. That's definitely looking pretty good here for cozNemOK. So as you can see, the 1 squad of Slug-A-Boys that wasn't involved in that did sneak all the way up here and is trying to cap this victory point, because it is tied right now 1-1 for victory points. Now taking some casualties, going to have to retreat, and already you can see the early game use of this Sentinel. So I really do like this fast Sentinel play here. Meanwhile, just kind of looking around the map, you can see cozNemOK has got a single power generator. Same thing going on there for Ill-1. And meanwhile, the Lord General is just kind of prowling around here. It looks like he took some casualties early on and is just kind of reinforcing. The Lord General is an interesting hero. We'll take a little bit of a look more at him later. We have quite a little shootout going on here now, as all the Shoot-A-Boys are back, but as you can see, they have all been upgraded with the big shooters, and no, another ground pound, just stomping back that whole ball of Orks there. But these kind of these little light Guardian infantry are just going to have to back away for the time being here. Those big shooters really do put a lot of hurt onto these kind of squads, especially if they don't really have any sort of real cover advantage. So all of those guys retreating for the time being. Meanwhile, you can see that the Lord General just kind of capping one of the power points up here in the north. And for the time being, it looks like the map control is just kind of split evenly down the center there. As you can see, the Mek Commander now is in the center here, just kind of trying to decap this requisition point while having a nice little shootout here with the Sentinel. Oh, man! And check out that nice little shot there. Look at the Sentinel, by the way, having to back way on out of here. We do have the Catchin' Devils now moving on in. Catchin' Devils really good in close combat. You can see that little explosive shot upgrade there coming out of the fact that they have shotguns and grenade launchers. Really good in close combat, but right now they're just kind of standing out in the open, getting severely gunned down by all these big shooters. Catchin' Devils definitely going to have to get the heck on out of here right now. Meanwhile, the shooter squad is beginning to take a lot of casualties as well from the combination of shots between all of these guardsmen and that Sentinel. So Sentinel in need of a little bit of repairs here, but for the time being, it looks like he held off that. So Mek Commander also, by the way, has been upgraded to have Daka, which is the the big shooter upgrade for him as well. I just love orcs. They have kind of a ridiculous language. So meanwhile, Lord General is now capping that one sway victory point here in the center. But of course, the Mek Commander has been really annoying in the background, just kind of capping things left and right there. So definitely making things annoying for the Imperial Guard right now. Taking a look over here right now, you can see that it looks like a squad of Storm Boys is coming out on the field right now to kind of perhaps offset the fact that the Catchin' Devils are out there. But as I was saying earlier, the Lord General doesn't really have any abilities on his own. Instead, he's kind of treated more like a squad of units. And as you add various things to him, like sergeants and commissars and stuff like that to his squad, he gains abilities that kind of buff troops around him. So we'll see that unit kind of grow and develop throughout the battle here. Meanwhile, it looks like the Storm Boys have now showed up on the scene here. Storm Boys have these rocket packs on their back, really good at jumping into combat, close combat, that sort of thing. So we'll have to see what kind of use those guys get. And meanwhile, it looks like our Sentinel is fully repaired and moving on out, backed up by the Catchin' Devils and some guardsmen here. And now we have the Mek Commander kind of pouring some fire into that, but he is really kind of out in the open there, having to use his teleport ability to get back into the rear. And here we have it now. So Storm Boys jumping on into combat here, slamming in right now to the Guardsman Infantry squad, but they are point blank with all of these Catchin' Devils right now. As you can see, all of these squads here in the north are just kind of laying into those Storm Boys, and Storm Boys taking horrific casualties, having to retreat, and they are all killed. And as you can see, the Sentinel here getting away with just a sliver of hit points, getting a single ground pound off right now, and the Slugger Boys trying to get into combat. But of course, all the damage is really coming from these two squads of Shooter Boys and the Mek Commander, just sitting back here with their big shooters, pouring hot lead into all of these troops right now. So this is really the DPS of this army. They're doing a lot of damage per second, killing tons of models, and I don't know if he's going to get out of here in time. No, the poor Lord General gets taken down in the middle of all of that. So the Shooter Boys kind of swaying the battle right there. It looks like our Sentinel's severely damaged here, finally getting repaired by these Guardian squads. And both players right now kind of licking their wounds, backing off, although the Shooter Boys, of course, are grabbing this victory point, wanting to make sure they maintain control of the area where the Lord General is lying down. You can always buy these heroes back if you have enough requisition, otherwise you do have to come and pick them up. There are other abilities that can resurrect heroes like that, though. So, for the time being, everybody's just upgrading to Tier 2, sitting around. So, it looks like the Catchin' Devils were completely destroyed during that conflict, as were the Storm Boys. So, everybody's just kind of back down to two basic units. Well, two Imperial Guard squads, a Sentinel versus two Shooter Boys and a Slugger Boy. So, pretty even. This game could go either direction here. Let's take a look around here now and see what these guys are up to. So, we do have, it looks like the Sentinel kind of leading the charge against the Slugger Boys. Again, that ground pound is just a really great way to begin any kind of confrontation. And they are just having to retreat because it gives plenty of time for the Guardsmen to kind of make up for any sort of lack of damage that they sometimes do. So Guardsmen are kind of small and weak, but they are in great numbers. And here we have the Lord General back on the field once again, and I don't know why he's kind of charging in right now. Perhaps he's trying to use some sort of special ability, but he is definitely taking quite a beating here. Gonna have to get the heck on out of there, and it looks like we have a creeping Basilisk barrage being called in here just to kind of cover his retreat. You can see that fire just kind of advancing across the map there. Unfortunately, it looks like it didn't really do too much. Maybe kind of bounce back this Mek Commander a little bit, maybe inflicted one casualty on these Shooter Boys. But for the time being, it looks like illonexxx is putting a lot of damage here onto cozNemOK's power grid here. Meanwhile, Guardsman Infantry right now. Oh, nice stomp going on there for all of the retreating Orksmen. Guardsman Infantry pouring a lot of fire into them. That's definitely looking pretty good here. It looks like both of these guys have been upgraded to have a sergeant as well. Sergeant just kind of, in general, improving that squad. And now you can see, now that cozNemOK has got his tier 2 up, he is building a Chimera, so we'll get to see that vehicle pop out in a little bit. In terms of Warhammer 40,000 lore, the Imperial Guard are kind of like, you know, if the Space Marines are the military, the Imperial Guard are kind of like the reserves or the police, you know. They kind of handle some more of the day-to-day stuff. In general, they're a little bit less high-tech, but there's a lot more of them. However, they do have access to a lot of vehicles. And what we just saw right there was a nice little rocket burst coming out of these tank busters. Tank busters have these little triple-barreled, kind of weird little Ork rocket launchers. Very effective against vehicles. Clearly, Ill1 knows that he can expect vehicle play at this point. Even getting a Weird Boy out on the field right now. Weird Boys being very, very psychically active orcs who basically cast kind of spells that act more or less like, you know, power beams, you know, fusion beams, that sort of thing, effective against, you know, enemy vehicles and whatnot. So here we have the Chimera on the battlefield right now. This is like a troop transport kind of light tank. It can also resupply troops, I believe. And this guy's just kind of charging on into battle right now. But unfortunately, the Weird Boy is already waiting for him. We'll have to see what he's going to do right now. And moving up in the back here with these shooters, we do have the tank busters as well. So Weird Boy going to start getting some shots out of him, perhaps. I don't know. He's just sitting around there not doing too much. I think he keeps moving in between each shot. Meanwhile, the tank busters there flinging a whole bunch of rockets back and forth there. There's a Weird Boy shot again. You can see very effective against vehicles. He's basically a beam weapon. And man, just another rocket shot going off there. Meanwhile, we do have the Sentinel, which has been upgraded to have the missile launcher, by the way. Getting a nice little ground pound off, but really these shooters doing tons of damage. One more rocket barrage going into the side of that Chimera, and the Chimera is reduced to a smoldering Hulk right now. You can see here we do have the Slugger Boys being backed up by the Shooter Boys, and yet again it looks like we do have a creeping Basilisk barrage just kind of ripping apart the troops, trying to cover his retreat. And could it be the Lord General has gone down once again? So really a lot of losses right now for the Imperial Guard player. The Ork player definitely taking some casualties, but he's got control over this right now, and he has the all-important tank busters here right now challenging all of these power generators. So not only is he decapping it, but he's just wrecking the place as well. So back to the Sentinel here, you can see he does have the missile launcher upgrade. It does fire frag missiles, which are really effective against infantry. There's a pretty good hit right there. And he has the option of switching up to crack missiles as well, which are really good against taking out vehicles and whatnot. But as you can see, this Weird Boy is decapping the power node, and all of the power generators have been taken out. So that's definitely a real hampering for our Imperial Guard player. And unfortunately, the line of fire just isn't working out for this Sentinel. As you can see, the Weird Boy is managing to hit him every time, and his rockets are hitting terrain. Doesn't matter, though. Lots of guardsmen going to go ahead and repair this. And here we have on the field right now the Ogrins. So the Ogrins here being upgraded, by the way, also having one of their champions as well coming out here. Really big, hefty guys. In terms of like normal universe lore, these guys are basically ogres, but in Warhammer 40k, I believe they are abhumans, which have kind of evolved on planets that have low gravity and whatnot. After thousands of years, they're just big, tough guys. So the Ogrins right now, charging on in, they've got big, heavy machine guns, and they just really slug it out in close combat as well. You can see they get their bonehead ability here, which allows them to kind of charge in and just kind of basically beat people up with their rifles. Really, really good heavy infantry unit right now. Charging in, putting a lot of pressure on these tank busters, doing significant damage there. All of these guys are going to have to get out of there. You can see getting one model, getting two models, doing a pretty significant amount of damage there. So looking good, looking good. Meanwhile, all of these Shooter Boys now hanging out, backed up by the Weird Boy. Putting a lot of fire into these orcs right now. Oh god, and we have some warp vomit now coming out of the Weird Boy. Warp vomit putting this big warp kind of area of effect that does a lot of damage, and it can just do all sorts of things to units. It causes them to take increased damage if it affects them, that sort of thing. We have a second squad of Storm Boys out right now, and they have been upgraded to have a Nob, one of the Orc nobles, the larger gentleman amongst the pack. And by the way, while all of this action has been going on here, once again, it's important to note that this Mech Commander has just been teleporting all over the field and just kind of harassing these back lines. As you can tell, this victory point keeps on getting captured by him. Weird Boy now moving out to cap the victory point. It is currently 422 points, 420 points right now for cozNemOK, and 421 for his opponent Ill1. So score nicely tied here. It's about to be 1-to-1 victory points, and the Mech Boy blinking out just in time as all those frag missiles come in. And yes, now with the work of this Weird Boy done, it does look like it is tied up. And now, of course, no, he grabbed his own as well. So it is 2-to-1 right now. So 2-1 victory points. illonexxx ahead 421 to 405 for cozNemOK. And here you can see leading the charge. The Ogryns are just slamming on in, but no, the Storm Boys are going to charge on in on top of the Ogryns, just kind of messing this whole place up. The Ogryns are now actually backing on out,